join us in a moment. I will be calling the Committee on Government Operations to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Member is acknowledging that they are attending the meeting via Zoom and that they are located in Wayne County, Michigan, unless otherwise stated when I call your name. Commissioner Kniezek. Commissioner Clark-Coleman.
Here.
Commissioner Basham.
Here.
Commissioner Killeen.
Right here.
Chair Dobb.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item.
B, approval of the January 27th, 2021 meeting minutes.
Colleen moves approval.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the motion passes. Next item.
C, old business. There is none.
Okay, next item.
MD1, under new business, an update from County Clerk Kathy Garrett regarding the concealed pistol license insurance backlog.
All right, great, thank you. So I understand that Clerk Garrett is not able to join us today due to a funeral, but I believe we have Deputy Clerk Dwayne Seals and Chief Deputy County Clerk Pat Ways on the line with us today.
Yes, you do.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank you and the entire clerk's office for your hard work during our November election. We recognize that due to the ongoing litigation during the for the presidential results, that your office's election duties took more time and resources than normal, and we appreciate the work that you did leading up to Election Day and in the weeks that followed to ensure that every Wayne County vote was heard. So over the past year, my office, as well as other commissioners, have received many complaints about the long wait time to apply for a CPL license. As of this morning, the earliest appointment a Wayne County resident can get is January of 2022. I think we can all agree that this is not timely access to services. So I do want to acknowledge that yesterday there was a discussion about this matter in the Ways and Means Committee, during which Clerk Garrett was in attendance. So for today, I'd like to start out my discussion with a few questions from myself, and then I will open it up to other commissioners. First of all, I'd like it to start with a description of the process of what happens when someone is applying for a new CPL. So after they've taken their CPL safety certification class, what do they need to do after that?
Yes, you should just come on. Yes, we go. Yeah. Good morning to everyone. I'm Pat Ways, the Chief Deputy. And I think the clerk was very, very articulate yesterday and very clear, expressly about the needs. With respect to your question about the process, I think the best way to answer your question is to invite you to come over to see the process. There are a number of steps that the staff is familiar with. They can walk you through the process. And so let me invite you to come over and spend a day with them from about 8 until 4:30 in the afternoon, because there's some behind the scenes things that happened and some on the scene things that happened. So it would just be daunting to go through every single step. So it would be, I think, more advantageous for you and the commissioners if you would just come over and see the process.
Okay, I would love to take you up on your invitation, but what I'm asking is, as far as a person, a regular person takes their CPL class, so then what do? They need to make an appointment with the clerk. They need to physically go into the clerk's office. Is there a paper application, a form they need to fill out? there's an oath that they need to take. Like, if you can just describe those steps for the a constituent, what did they need to do when they walk through the clerk's office, the fingerprinting?
And I hope you can appreciate what I'm about to say is that the staff who actually does the day-to-day, they're also in attendance at the funeral. And so rather than just give you an overview of just the highlights of what occurs, again, I think it would be more advantageous for you to come see. But the long and short of, I think, the message that we like to present to the commissioners and to the county exec's office is that the bottom line is we need more square footage and we need more staff. We're seeing an average, as the clerk clearly articulated yesterday, of about 100 people a day, in addition to all of the back end and additional work that needs to be done. So even describing the process and going through the step-by-step, it won't solve that problem. What we really need, and I want to thank everyone who's in attendance today and yesterday, Commissioner Varga, I think Commissioner Coleman, some of you, you've been champions for a long time with us trying to get this resolved. So I'm glad to know that it's back on the forefront and that you're trying to assist us with getting more space and more staff. If we get more space and more staff, we can help more constituents. Prior to pre-COVID, Commissioner Varga came over, the CEO and the chief of staff came over. So everyone is aware of the tight space constraints that we're faced with. In addition to that, I think you can also appreciate that COVID has also adversely affected our staff. People have been exposed to COVID, persons who've come into the office. We installed plexiglass. We have social distancing measures, CDC guidelines. So it's not business as it was pre-COVID 2020. But if you can help us.
I understand that, Ms. Ways. We'll get to all that. Commissioner Basham, do you have a to that point?
Yeah, and I feel bad that somebody's family members lost a life, and the staff and you know, folks are at the funeral. I feel bad about that. But as I understand it, if you we're a year away from getting a CPL processed, and there's no excuse for that. Let me, if I can finish. There's no excuse for that. If you're the clerk or commissioner or a Wayne County employee or doing budget or any of that stuff, we as a county have certain obligations to process certain things like birth certificates, CPLs and things like that. I understand that you get backlogged. I understand that people take time off. I understand that you can get behind a week or even a month, but the whole year after a person takes a CPL, and we tell them as a form of government that you can, this is what you have to do, and they do their part, then we as a government body need to do our part, whatever that takes. I understand every department in Wayne County, Sheriff's Department, Commission, the Auditor General, we're all short-staffed. We know that. A lot of folks are underpaid. We know that. Everybody has to do social distancing and those sorts of things. We know that. But the point is, to boil this thing down, the average person that does a CPL is entitled to get that permit from the county in a somewhat decent time, not a year later. A year later is off the board, off the cliff. So that was my comment, Madam Chair, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Can I respond to that? Can I respond to that, Chair?
Yes.
Yes, to the Chair, Commissioner Bassam. Clerk Garrett is is aware of the time frame to get a CPL license here in Wayne County. She's done everything possible to try to speed that up. She's actually extended hours. She has employees work on Saturday, but they process about 100 CPL licenses a day. Now, the issue with that is that Clerk Garrett came before the Board of Commissioners back in September during her budget. She anticipated. In fact, at that time, we had probably 4 or 5, maybe a 6-month wait time. And we asked the Board of Commissioners and said, hey, she said, we need more time. We need more people. We need more staffing. We need more equipment. At that time, We asked for, I think, 5 extra printers for our CPL. The commissioner did not help us. They actually told us to go and talk to the CEO about the CARES Act, which we did. It took a few months to get that finalized. We received those printers approximately about, what, maybe last week, 2 weeks ago. They had to be installed. So yes, we are moving towards that, but this is not something that the clerk feels should be taking this long. But we had no equipment. We only had one license, one printer to work with. And at that point, the commissioner board did not allocate any more for us.
Well, if I may respond to that, and I can appreciate that, but I, as you well know, I'm not shy, and I would hope that you wouldn't be shy in calling us and telling us it's taking a delay also. But I don't think you see, if you drill down into it, I don't think the commission is an obstacle when it comes to trying to get things done. So, if you're having a hold up and I can help in any way, shape, or form to resolve any of these issues, I can only count for one commissioner, but I'm on board.
Thank you, sir. Again, we're not actually saying that the commissioners are holding things up. Just that the clerk came before the board during our budget hearing back in September and requested 5 more printers, CPL printers, fingerprint. We need those in order to process individuals. Those were not allocated in our budget at the time. It wasn't until probably November before they were actually allocated that we actually were able to go out and process and get these printers. But at the time, they were not allocated. So we could not move faster. We could not move on at that point.
And also, once they were ordered, they were backlogged, meaning the manufacturer. So we had to wait until they sent them to us. So there are a number of things that are out of our control, but we do appreciate your support and your help in helping us to move this forward.
Okay, I would like to go back to my original question that has not been answered. And this is not for me, this is for the public. What is the process for applying for a CPL? Can you describe that process or not?
Could you give us a second, Commissioner?
Too many laws and too many steps that involve the state.
Commissioner Job, because there are laws and laws that's outside, the steps outside the clerk's office, we do have a person who is actually our manager over that area. She could probably send you what is required of a citizen when they come in from step by step. We know, as you mentioned, as far as they coming in, they have to process, they have to make an appointment, they have to process, turn it in, they have to come in and we have to verify it, they have to take an oath, and then they have to be fingerprinted. So of course that takes some time right there. And of course people brought up Macomb and Oakland, other counties. Why is it so much faster? Well, if you know, Wayne County is a lot larger than Macomb and Oakland, first of all. And second, those counties, there's not a one-stop shop. When you process an application there, they have to go someplace else, whether it's your local law enforcement and get a fingerprint. Here at Wayne County, we allow that to happen all at one time when they come.
They don't have to.
They don't have to. They can go someplace and get a fingerprint.
Right, but they still have to go physically to the county clerk's office to take that oath, and that's required by state law.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why we try to provide that one-stop service for them, because they have to come in here to the office anyway. So we try to provide that fingerprinting for them as well.
Okay, so now I want to move on to the fingerprint scanners that we just talked about briefly, but during our October 1st, 2020 full board meeting, Commission approved a budget adjustment certifying revenue and reallocating expenditures in the amount of $74,086 COVID-19 fund CARES Act dollars on behalf of the Wayne County Clerk's Office to provide funding for miscellaneous professional services. What was this funding used for?
Commissioner Dobb, Chair Dobb, we just became aware of that $74,000. In fact, I looked at it last night. I looked at it this morning. This is a $74,000 budget that wasn't in this budget. It was actually in last year's budget, 19-20 budget year. And this money was something that's not put through us. This is something that CARES money where the CEO, M&B, will actually take a look at our budget and they will allocate funds towards that. So this money was something that wasn't allocated by us, nor did the commission. We can see that the clerk can see that we've actually used this money for something that's probably maybe back soft costs that the CEO's office used this for. But it was not allocated. You would have to probably talk to M&B about this $74,000.
Okay, is anyone from M&B here to answer that question?
Yeah, this is Hugh Newsom, the CFO. I just wanted Dwayne to repeat what he just said so I can make sure I understand exactly what he's saying, because I'm going to check that out real time. But Dwayne, you just repeat the $74,000?
Yes, it's 74,000. Yes, through the chair. This $74,086 that was initiated by M&B, and it says on behalf of the clerk for miscellaneous COVID expenses. So every year we kind of do I think at the time, every 2 or 3 weeks, we would submit a budget to M&B and as well as their contractors, and they would go through and determine which costs were COVID costs. So maybe they would take a look at our invoices and say, okay, this money could be allocated towards COVID. And they made that determination internally, and then they would send that cost for the commission to approve. But it has nothing to do with the printer, the CPL printer, or anything like that.
I guess I'm a little confused. The way the process, Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
the process is that personnel, there are two groups of COVID-related expenses that we work with our consultant Guidehouse to identify. So first, you'd have personnel-related costs. So, for instance, I might be doing something that is chargeable and dedicated to COVID response, and so that would, we would go through, look at the payroll costs, and then charge a certain portion of payroll costs for me and whoever else is working on COVID response, and charge that, and that will be handled by M&B along with the consultant. The other piece of the pie is charges that the departments themselves request. So, for instance, the fingerprint scanner, if the department would say, "Hey, we need a fingerprint scanner to help our operations." As it relates to COVID, it's going to help with COVID response. It's going to help with distancing or whatever. Cleaning is another good example too. And so that will come to us from the department. So I guess I need to dig a little deeper to understand the 74,000, because in theory, the 74,000 would have been generated by the department. So I'm happy to take it offline and research it a little further. I'm a little kind of cold calling me here, but I just can't imagine that we would have done that. But I don't want to say something without being able to fully vet it out and go back at the records and look. But that's the way the process worked for COVID-related charges as we went through the CARES Act money.
Okay, if you could follow up on that, Mr. Newsom, and get that information to the committee, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. So going back to the fingerprint scanners, so the scanners have been purchased, is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes, that's correct.
Okay. And are they installed and they are being currently used?
I can't answer that question. My understanding is that they are not, but once it goes past procurement, that M&B isn't directly involved. So the contractor will work with the department and do the implementation for technology. So I'd have to leave that to either the clerk or someone from Department of Information Technology to talk about that further.
Okay, Mr. Seals, can you respond to that?
Yes, we can. It was actually they are installed. Last I heard, they were with.
They're here. They're on site. We have to get firewalls from the county's DOT department. We also have to get buy-in from the Michigan State Police Department with respect to our system speaking to their system. So we're in the process of working through those details. We've had several meetings with the state and the county DOT department on board. So hopefully we're looking for a go live date of early as February 22nd, because training has to occur on the new machines. The staff has to have a test and a trial run. We expect to get that done next week. Training is scheduled for this week. The test pilots are up for next week, and our goal is to go live on the 22nd.
Okay, and a request has been sent to the Wayne County Department of Information, the IT department.
Yes, yes, they've been working with us. They're aware of our needs, and they've been helping us to get the necessary security and cyber protocols in place so that the information can go streamlessly and seamlessly across the Ethernet to both the state and the county.
Okay, great. All right, so my next question is about the needs for the call center. And in the Ways and Means Committee yesterday, Clerk Garrett indicated that she had been assessing the treasurer's call center and waiting on things to move. Has your department sent that formal request letter to the CFO for the additional personnel needed, or when do you plan on sending that request?
Yes, the letter was, I saw a letter this morning. Ms. Garrett had formulated a letter, and I think it was processed. It was sent out this morning, or it's sending out as we speak. It was done and completed.
Okay, great. And then did you copy Commissioner Varga as well on that?
I think she's planning on counting Commissioner Varga as well as yourself,
Okay.
and the chair of the commission as well.
Okay, yeah, if we could get copies of that, appreciate that. Is Mr. Abbo, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. I was wondering if there's anything that you wanted to weigh in on this process. Is this all, are we set if a formal letter of request is sent to the CFO? Is there anything else that we need to do as far as the commission side, or?
I mean, we are committed to assisting in any way, shape, and form that we can. We certainly do not want to be a bottleneck in any way in this process. And as soon as we get the request, to the extent that we are responsible for any aspect of it, we will absolutely work as quickly as we possibly can to make sure, that it gets processed and move forward as part of what the program is and the process is within the commission in Wayne County.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Mr. Newsome, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I have to apologize. I did not see a letter delivered electronically. I don't know if it was sent via intermail or not, but I haven't seen a letter. So if one's been delivered, obviously I'm gonna move it to the front burner, and the administration will manage it accordingly. But if one was sent this morning, I haven't received it.
Chair Dobb,
Yes.
Can I respond?
Yes,
Yeah, that letter was completed. So the Clerk Garrett is at the funeral. So maybe her staff's in the process of actually is putting in and sending it out though. But it was completed, and it's either being sent out or it will be sent out in a few minutes. So
will that be sent to him by email?
it will be by email. Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so another question I have is, so we've covered that the wait list is now into January of 2022, and I apologize if you have answered this in the other committee or earlier today, but do you have an approximate number of people that are on the wait list? How many people are waiting for their CPL applications?
I'm not for sure. I mean, we do as we mentioned, we do about 100 CPL license a day. If you're seeing it's there until January, you can tell pretty much how many's on that waiting list at this point. Doing a little basic math there. But I can't say for sure. I think the clerk had some numbers that she submitted to Ways and Means, but no, I didn't take a look at exactly the numbers, how many is in that. but we can check for you though.
Okay, so are you scheduling 100 appointments every day online?
So yes, I mean, probably, if you look at the way it's allocated, it probably, works out to be about 100 a day. But for example, on Monday, the state's system went down from 1 o'clock until 4:30 in the afternoon. So all of those persons who were scheduled for the afternoon, we had to find a way because we couldn't service them because the state's system was down. As a result, we had to talk to those individuals and somehow squeeze them in throughout the day. So instead of our general 100, depending on whatever that number equated to, we had to find a way to get them in. Now we're working very hard to get them in this week, but that means that somebody won't go to lunch or someone won't go to break. And that means that they'll have to work through that time to accommodate those people that we couldn't service on Monday, not due to something that we caused, but that was out of our control. So those are the kinds of unforeseen things that we can't schedule for. And as a result, so we may see more than 100 people a day, but the wear and tear on the staff becomes greater. And so people get tired and they're weary. And so as a result, they're being asked to do more every day, but the return on that investment is not always there for the employee. So while, and their constituents as well, I mean, they work for the county, they're county employees. So I think we have to give consideration to all parties that are involved here. And that's why the clerk has been adamant and ongoing about requesting more space and more staff. If we had more staff and more space, then we could accommodate more people. But right now we're in cramped quarters and people are unable to do any more than they're already doing.
Yes, I certainly understand the issue. How many employees do you have that are dedicated just to CPL processing?
We have a staff of about 6 people right now, but one of the people just got transferred to another position. Another person just went out on sick leave, and then another family member may have an issue because they called in, and so now we're down to 4. It could possibly be 3 if this other issue exacerbates to the extent that the person has to be out longer than she really thought, maybe 1 or 2 days. It could be longer, it could be 1 or 2 months. So right now we have 4 people who are on staff. It's a staff of 6, but because of those other unforeseen circumstances, we have 4.
Okay, and then for the employees that you're requesting for the call center, will they be involved in processing CPL applications?
No, they would not be. In fact, yesterday the clerk had actually requested 4 additional individuals for CPL. The 6 individuals for the call center is totally separate. That's as you know, that we have a backlog of phone calls that we're not able to get to them on a timely basis. So therefore, that's what the call center is for. And we modeled that after the treasurer's office, their call center, and that was the letter. But no, the clerk is actually, she had mentioned, and I think there was I think the Ways and Means that requested that she also sends a letter over for additional 4 individuals, as well as the spacing. We have the 5 extra printers, so that's definitely going to speed things up. But as you mentioned, we only have 4 people trying to do 100 people at one time. So therefore, we're asking for 4 more people, 4 more staff, employees to actually be able to speed that up. And with the staffing and the spacing, we should be able to catch that up fairly quickly.
Okay. Are there any employees in, within the clerk's office, but in different divisions that could be transferred over to the CPL processing division temporarily just to help out with the backlog?
Well, that's all the areas are understaffed. As you mentioned, as we mentioned during the budget, the clerk had requested more staff. In fact, we have a number of staff numbers that are on that the positions go unfilled. We've been trying to fill those positions through the backlog and personnel and HR. We don't understand why. We have probably 35 to 40, those are court employees. So those are totally different employees. They're allocated separately. So they could be using CPL anyway. But we have a number of staff members that are not. And again, as Chief Deputy Ways mentioned, that the staff have been working overtime. They go without their lunch. They go without their break. They work on Saturdays. I think probably at least one or two Saturdays a month. They come and work. So they are getting wore out too with the staff that we have.
Okay. I have a couple more questions. Thank you so much for bearing with me. The Westland satellite office has not been reopened, correct?
Yeah, it's a very small space. It's not, if you've ever been in there, it's not.
Yeah, I have.
We had other areas, but that was one satellite. We had another satellite pre-COVID, but yeah, that area is not.
And it's my understanding that you've closed it because it's too small to practice social distancing. It's for CDC guidelines. Is that correct?
It's impossible. Probably 2 people could stand in that area and be within the guidelines, CDC guidelines.
Okay. All right. Okay, just a few more questions for me, and then I will turn it over to other commissioners. I'd like to talk about constituents who need to renew their CPLs. So someone who already has a CPL license, just need to renew it. Do they need to actually come in? Do they need to make an appointment? Do they need to come into the clerk's office?
The process, the application process is online.
The application
instructions,
as Chief Deputy Ways had mentioned, the application process for renewal is online. So I know that they can actually go online. They'll tell them what they need to go through. I'm not for sure if they actually need to come into the office once it's renewed. I think the whole process could be done online though.
Okay, because I did a little research beforehand. I made a call to the Michigan State Police CPL division, and they told me that the county clerk sends out a letter 6 months prior to the CPL holder's expiration date with a PIN number so that the holder can go online and just renew it online through the Michigan State Police website. So are you, is the clerk's office able to keep up on sending out those letters, in addition to everything else that you're taking care of? Are those letters going out on a timely basis?
I would think so. I've not heard of a problem with that particular section. I can definitely look into that and get back with you on that though. But I have personally talked to citizens who have said they have received a letter and that they're here with the PIN. They come back to the clerk, but explain to them they can also go online too. But I will check and get back with you on that question.
Okay, because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. It also speaks to, again, the back end work. I think we're focused on, getting customers in and out. But I think the clerk was very, very explicit yesterday about indicating there is a number of back end things that need to be done. And this would be with revocations, suspensions, renewals, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things need to be done in addition to servicing the customers on a day-to-day basis. So all the more, and I know I'm being redundant, but I just want to make the case that we need more people and we need more space. If we can do that, then I think some of these issues would take care of themselves. But without people and without space, we could talk about it all day long, but it wouldn't resolve the issue. So I'm really excited about everyone on this call and yesterday with Commissioner Varga, being committed to helping us help all of the constituents of Wayne County, because not just yours, but the clerk's constituents as well. So I'm excited about, moving forward and about getting some relief for the current employees and bringing on new employees so that we can get from under the weight of this process.
Okay, so if a CPL holder who needs to renew their license, and it's getting to be 6 months, 5 months, it's close to the date. If they haven't received their letter, can they just call the clerk's office and get their PIN?
Exactly, and that's why we're looking forward to the call center for that reason. And hopefully
Okay.
that, yes,
That would help us.
that would help and we can
A call
send them a
center
letter
could
out.
help. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, everyone's going through a problem with the COVID, so, it could be an issue with the mail or what have you. So we'll be more than glad to send that letter if need be. We've done that too.
Okay, wonderful. And then another instance, someone, a constituent reached out to me asking what he needs to do. He's lost his CPL license, the card. So if someone has their card lost or stolen, how do they get a replacement card? Do they need to go through the clerk?
Yes, I think there is a charge for that. But again, they would just call into the clerk. We had a call center. They would fill that call for him, and they would set up a time for him to come in and get that.
Okay, would he need an appointment to physically go in there? Is he gonna have to wait until January to get that replaced?
Everything we do here at the clerk, you need an appointment to get in because of the CDC guidelines.
I understand that, but he already has an existing CPL. So why would he have to come in physically? He just needs a replacement.
So if he would call or go to the clerk help and put his question in, then we could field the question and then give him some direction about what could be done next.
Okay. And then my very last question is, I guess you're probably going to answer the same thing. If a CPL holder moves, change their address, how do they update that? Would they call the clerk and
Or the clerk help.
update through the
Yes.
clerk's office?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They would call the clerk or do a clerk help ticket.
Okay. All right, wonderful. That is all for me. Thank you so much for sticking with me for that long time and all my questions. I'm going to open it up to commissioners on the committee for any questions. You can use the virtual raise hand or just speak up if anyone's got anything.
Yeah, Commissioner Dobb, Tim Colleen.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm still figuring out how to raise my hand on this thing. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. Let's, for the clerk's office, let's go back to December of 2019. How long was the wait for a CPL appointment in December of 2019?
I can check that for you, but I wouldn't know right off the top of my head. We didn't have a concern. I mean, there was no one really, I don't think it was something that was causing an issue at the time.
Well, it'd be nice to know.
We'll get that.
And did our deputy clerk leave?
She just stepped off for the chief deputy clerk left. The deputy clerk is still here, but she'll be back in a second. I think she just stepped out of office for a second.
Because I would think the chief deputy clerk would know. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody just put up, it was all walk-ins, no appointments required?
That's correct.
That's correct, yes.
Yes, yes, that's correct. No.
So in December of 2019, we didn't have to take appointments at all.
Prior to March 13th.
Yeah,
March 13th, 2020 is when we went out on a COVID extended leave. I
right.
think we came back May 1st.
And so,
After May 1st, the world changed.
yes, ma'am, I've been living in that world too. So from the beginning to the end of the process before COVID, how long did it take someone to get a CPL?
Well, it didn't take, I don't think the process changed to get the CPL. The change occurred with getting in to apply for the CPL. And so
Well, that's what I mean. The whole process for a citizen who back in December of 2019 wanted a CPL, when they started the process with the clerk's office, how long did it take for them to receive it?
everything was different then. I'd have to go back and.
I understand everything was different.
I don't have that at the tip of, at my fingertips. I just know that after May 1st, when we returned, everything was different.
Little messages, and I don't know where they're coming from, keep popping up. 45 days is the state law from the time of, and and forgive me if I get this wrong, I understand you were in Ways and Means the other day, and I'm not on that committee. 30 to 45 days is what keeps popping up on the screen, and I don't know where that's coming from. So I'm sorry, since I'm not on Ways and Means, I wasn't there for the discussion. And it always confuses things to have the same discussion in a couple, 3 different committees. So month and a half sounds like prior to COVID is what it took people.
Excuse me, sir. I need to point out, the only people from the clerk's office is Deputy Chief Ways and myself. So who's ever texting or putting those on the screen is not from our office.
Well, I'm not saying, I said I don't know where they're coming from. I'm not suggesting that.
Excuse me, it's on the chat line.
Right.
We don't know. We're just saying we don't agree.
Somebody
We're not agreeing or disagreeing with
Somebody
that.
by the name of Chad.
We can get back with you.
Yeah.
And I
So-
think
So I want to have some idea on that. How many people in December of 2019 were assigned to CPLs?
Oh, it's still the
well, in December of 2019, you have to remember we still had 2 offices. We had the satellite at Westland and we had the one downtown. There were no CDC restrictions with respect to spacing. There was no CDC restrictions with respect to how many people you could have in the office. So it was really just kind of a walk-in. You could be serviced. There were no delays in the mail prior to last year when that slowed. So everything was different. So the
I understand, ma'am. That's, we've said this right at the beginning. If we were in court, we would say we would stipulate to that. Yes, everything changed. Prior to everything changing, you are commenting now that you have 6 people for CPLs, but for various reasons, you're down to 4. That number you have. How many people were doing CPLs prior to the entire universe changing a year and a half ago?
Again, I would have to look at that number. We had 6 people downtown, but we also had the satellite office. And I'm not sure, but I think we had 5 or 6 people there as well.
Just for CPLs?
For all of it, primarily CPL, but we also took some preliminary applications for, I think, marriages. I'm not sure, but marriage. I think so. But so we had, let's say we had 6 people at Westland and 6 people down here. That's a total of 12 people. But the
just for CPLs.
No. CPL downtown, KMAX 6 people.
Yeah.
And we also have the rest of the vitals unit, which is marriage, birth, death.
Right. Vitals.
Right.
So those people went what I'm trying to do is assess your needs here. And in assessing the needs, I need to know what it was prior and what it is now to see what your needs are. I don't want to protract this too much, but you indicated that out on Henry Ruff, there was 6 employees out there, and those employees went somewhere after they didn't, after they were not working at Henry Ruff anymore. So,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, I guess no.
So those employees, I'm not finished. So I'm waiting to. Those employees went somewhere. Those 6, right? And I'm not going to get into that now. But the employees out at Henry Ruff, but apparently, prior to COVID, month and a half, 2 months, somewhere like that, you got it. You got your CPL. If you believe that you're going to have those fingerprint machines up and running on the 22nd of February, how is that going to improve your processing of CPLs at that point? How many more are you going to be able to do?
Well, we're going to keep the 100 people per day for sure. But again, you have to give people time to get acclimated to the new process. So I could probably better answer that question after we've done it for about 30 days. And I have some more realistic numbers for you.
Well, you had to make a decision somewhere how many machines to get, correct?
Right.
And that decision, I would assume, from a management perspective, would have to do with how many more people we can process. You just didn't pick a number of machines just out of the air.
We picked 5 for the number of people who are currently staffed there. We got funding for 5, so we got 5 machines.
Right. So
That's
how many more people, if we talk about it like a throughput, how many more people then, when those machines are up and running, can we be getting CPLs out to in a more timely basis? And since there's not an immediate answer there, since there's not an answer that, oh yeah, we looked at it, we're going to be able to jump this by 25 people a day. So it concerns me that there's not an answer for that.
Well, sir, through the chair, Commissioner Flynn, we do expect a huge increase in the ones of how many we can actually process in a day. Obviously, we have 1 printer now. If we have another 5 extra printers, we will be able to process many more. Now, obviously, we just mentioned that obviously we had 6. Now we're down to 4. So no matter how many, I can have 10 printers, but if I only have 4 people, it doesn't really do any good. That's why we're
you ordered the I'm sorry, right. I don't want to be too argumentative here, but you ordered the printers knowing you only had 4 people. So you're spending money and you're saying we can't really do anything.
That's not true. That's not true.
Well, that's the answer I just got.
No, we actually had 6 people when the machines, when it was
we got allocated 5.
We got allocated for 5.
So we ordered what they allocated. We ordered 5.
Yeah.
So now it would be presumptive to tell you how many people will be serviced without, for example, Monday, the state system went down. So
I understand that too. We all deal with that kind of stuff.
About giving you numbers, let us vet it. Let us go through the process and tell you how it works so that we can have accurate numbers to provide to you. That's all I'm asking.
So,
we know to do 100, and the goal is to do more than 100. What that number looks like above 100, I don't know.
I don't know how many staff you need then. If you're just going to give me a number, like we'll see. And I don't think the state system goes down on a regular basis. Excuse me. My bank system goes down sometimes, and I can't use ATMs and that sort of thing. But that is not. So okay, the system went down one day from the state. I have a hard time putting that into figuring out what your resources are and what you need and what you need in personnel. Do you have any unfilled positions in your budget currently?
Yes.
How many unfilled positions does the clerk have in their budget?
I don't have off the top of my hand, but I think there was somewhere around 35 or 40 individuals unfilled. But a lot of those unfilled individuals are not CPL employees. Those are court clerks, which cannot be crossed. Can't be used.
Well, you said a lot, which is not everyone. How many of those unfilled could work on CPLs that you already have the funding approved for?
Well, none. Those individuals are allocated in other vital record areas. We have individuals in Detroit. I mean, over in 400 Monroe. I guess Commissioner, we want to point out too that the CPL license process has increased. We have a higher demand today than we did a year ago. And no matter how many, we have 5, but we still have a space limitation. I can't put 100 people into that CPL license. So how many, doesn't really matter how many, I still have to go by how many can go at one time in that area. So we're also limited. We talked about that. We're looking at one thing. No, we came back when the clerk came in September, she asked for space and individuals. She didn't ask for one or other, but we're taking one as we get it. The space would help out. So will the printers help out. We would love to have both of those. If we have both of those, we can obviously, we can hire more people, we have more space, we wouldn't have a backup.
So how many of the funded positions that are unfilled in your budget could be used for people to work on CPLs?
I think we have, I think we have 4. I think there's 2 right now that's funded that we don't have, if I remember.
We have 6 now. 6 more. Whatever, so he had 12 people.
So we're looking for 12. So we have 6. We're looking for 6 more at this point.
And again, because I want to be clear here, in your budget, you have, I forget the exact number of unfunded. And of course, I understand with court clerks. How many people do you have in your budget with open positions that are already funded that could be used for CPL?
It could be used for, that could be used.
You could hire somebody in those positions to do CPL work.
Well, I'm not for sure. I quite understand your question. We have vacant positions.
Well, let me clarify the question then. You have certain number of positions in your budget that are funded that are vacant. And a certain number of those are going to be like court clerks and whatnot. So they are not able to be hired to do CPL work because they're court clerks. Of the funded positions that are out there in your budget currently, how many of those people, how many of those positions could you hire to do CPL work and fill those positions right now or close to it?
Well, I mean, obviously those positions that are funded, those are funded in certain areas, like in Detroit Vitals. If there's vacant positions there, if we were to fill those positions would be working in the Detroit Vitals area, which is the money's allocated.
Okay, so we got what, but it's not an answer to the question. How many people are already funded in the budget? There are vacant positions that could be hired to do CPL work.
I'll have to take a look and see. Obviously, I haven't looked at the budget as far as how many
Yeah. Well, I'll just suggest here, right? You're coming to us with this dire thing. I'm getting the CPL calls. Everybody's getting the CPL's call because it has gone up with COVID. People are feeling less safe. People want to get a CPL license. That has gone up. We've been seeing this for a while now because the universe changed almost a year ago. And I'm suggesting here that you have some positions in your budget that you could hire to get more than the 6, that's really 4 CPL folks that are currently working for you, that you do have over the last 8 months room in your budget to hire more people.
Commissioner Clean, through the chair, we're constantly working with personnel trying to bring employees in. Right now, we have a shortage in our vitals record. You come in and get a marriage license or a death certificate or whatever, those people are waiting too. If we
absolutely.
We move someone out of that area, then that area becomes a problem issue too. The people will be calling you over, why can't I get married? Why can't I get my death certificates? We get calls all the time for those as well. And that's because we're short.
Please give me, I understand this because I've had conversations in the clerk office has been very good. DBAs have been backed up. A lot of things have been backed up. And thank you for the help on that. But I can't get a definitive answer here. How many people how many positions that are in the budget that are unfunded, are not unfunded? How many positions that are vacant, but are in your budget that are approved, could be used to hire somebody for CPL work?
Well, none, because those positions are needed for the positions that they're funded for.
So even though you have all these vacant positions, you can't use any of them to do CPL work?
Because right now we have employees work on Saturday to keep up in other areas. We have other areas. The clerk has other functions that she needs to take care of as well.
I understand that.
Not all the functions. So if we take someone from over here to pay here, then that situation becomes a problem.
Well, I don't have it all in front of me, but it seems like this is fertile ground in looking at those positions that are already funded in the budget and working with administration and HR in terms of, can we free some of these up in order to hire some people for CPL? Because the year wait and how people are. So it just seems to me that there's an opportunity there for currently what we're doing to get a few more people for you. You got.
Well, Commissioner, I don't want you to go away thinking that we can just move one person that's been budgeted for one area to move them someplace else and that fixes the problem. That will just cause to create a bigger problem.
That is not what I'm suggesting at all.
They have to be trained, so they would leave their job that they're trained at to train them into another position. We don't have, if we hire someone for vital records, we need someone for vital records. We hire for someone for the court office, we need someone for courts. We hire for someone for CPL, we need someone for CPL. We can't just move them around.
Mr. Seals, I think Commissioner Clinton understands that, and that's not what he's suggesting.
Well, no, and it's kind of an argumentative answer. We've had this problem for a while, and you know, I look at the unfunded or the funded but unfilled positions, saying something can be done with that. And what I'm getting back is arguments about why we can and why we can't. And certainly, excuse me, I'm trying not to interrupt you. Certainly, if you talk to the prosecutor, you talk to the sheriff, all of the countywide electeds have this problem with not enough people and what COVID has come down on. And as you know, we've had extensive discussions over the last several years with the prosecutor, the biggest or the highest volume prosecutorial office in the country, and they don't have enough frontline prosecutors to get the job done. This goes on all over. What I'm probing here is what could be done in the current budget. So I'm going to leave the question of taking those positions that are funded in the budget, maybe looking at them since they haven't been funded and saying, hey, and work with the administration and say, hey, these are unfunded positions. We haven't filled them. Can we move this from one designation to another and hire a couple more CPL? I would just like to see people do that. I'm going to shift here just for a moment on the budget adjustment. I believe it was $74,000 that was referred to earlier in this discussion. And I believe the clerk's office said they were only recently aware of that. Did I miss something in that discussion?
Yes, we did. Commissioner Clean, through the chair, we did not initiate that budget adjustment. That budget adjustment was initiated by M&B, and that was actually back in last year's budget. It wasn't this year. It was budget this year, 1920. So as you know, that after the end of the year, M&B makes a lot of budget adjustments that departments have no knowledge of those adjustments that were made. This is one of those budget adjustments that were made after the fiscal year had closed. They still have that time period to make any adjustments they need to make. So we just became aware of it when your commission staff, finance staff, actually sent it over to us and asked us about it.
Wow. Well, that's definitely a communication problem then, that you had those resources available to you. And I don't know where it was missed that the clerk's office was not notified that there was a budget adjustment. I believe the clerk's office follows the Ways and Means agenda, which I am assuming is where that budget adjustment came through. So that's a bit of a problem too. The letter that you're referring to that people went and looked for and they don't have it right now, what's the content of that letter again? What are you asking for in that letter that people are going to be seeing today or tomorrow?
It's for the Commissioner Clean, it's for the call center. But I need to back up for a second. You made a statement that said we were not aware of that budget. That budget adjustment was done after the fiscal year. We couldn't do anything with that budget adjustment of $74,000. It was done in September, late September, later than that. So we don't have any knowledge. We can't do anything with that. The fiscal year is over when that budget adjustment was done. So I just want to know that we just didn't.
You were given $74,000 in a budget adjustment, and you don't, and you don't have any say as to how that money is spent.
Okay, sir. Can I explain that the money was not given to us? It was used to pay off some charges. $74,000 was allocated into contractual services and contractual services fees. Services and contractual services. $74,000 was put into that line item. It was done. So we didn't know. We didn't have any.
So the clerk's office was never even talked to about that. They
No.
just went back and paid some bills or
Well,
something.
this is something they do. This is something the MNB does every year. They do that also for the commission. When I was the finance person for the commission, they also went back and did the same thing at the end of the year too, as well as in the prosecuting department and every other department. They do that.
Can some of the other on the committee get a chance to say something? Melissa?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Commissioner Colleen, do you have any further questions?
Yeah, I do. I got a couple more.
Okay.
We'll just stay here all day while Commissioner grills, Colleen grills.
Well, somebody tell me if I'm violating some committee rules.
Go ahead, Commissioner. It's your floor.
Now they're
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. So we need to find out more about that budget adjustment. You got money into your budget, but you didn't have anything to say over how it was spent.
If I could interject on that, Commissioner, sometimes at the end of the year, just to align the budget to actual, there are adjustments made, and it's really just for auditing purposes. You're taking out of one line item and putting into another item where there's really no funds associated with it. It's just to align it for
it's
budget
cleanup work.
It's just
okay.
If I may, Commissioner, and thank you, Mark. I was going to chime in, but I was going to let the conversation flow. Mark's exactly right. There will be no reason for us to add money for the clerk to spend after the fact. Usually, what will happen is just like Mark described. We had something that happened, and maybe something was over the budget, but we have money. We move money around. So at the end of the fiscal year, we can show that the money that was spent aligned with the budget appropriation. So this is a cleanup work. This is a cleanup exercise. There's no reason for us to add money that's in the budget line item and then not tell the clerk, because that defeats the purpose. Why would we put the money there that the clerk can't spend?
Okay. Well, thank you very much. What I'm trying to do here is get to the help that we need in order to move the CPL process along and not have a year wait. So that means we have to look at what we're currently doing, what's been done in the past, what we can do in the future. And that's kind of what I'm going through, because as a commissioner, to allocate the money, I need to understand all of those needs. Have there been any actions that the clerk's office has taken over these last 8 months to speed up the CPL process or to bring more resources in so that it didn't get to a year wait?
Definitely. In fact, we sent a memo, an email over to Commissioner Dobb as well as Commissioner Varga on exactly some of the initiatives the clerk has implemented. She has implemented longer hours. So she mentioned employees are working long hours. They're working without lunches and breaks. And they also work on weekend. And we ordered the fingerprint machines that will help out.
Well, I'll get a hold of that memo. As you know, Mr. Seals, that information is out there. Like I said, I'm not on Ways and Means, and so things get transferred that I don't necessarily see from one to the other. So I'll get a hold of that memo and see. I'm hoping you can use a few of those positions that are already in the budget. Well, what's the next thing we're going to hear from the clerk's office about getting more people into working on CPLs?
I think CPL, I think she is right now looking, she is in the process of putting a letter together that will be requesting additional six CPL employees as well as spacing. I mean, obviously that's the problem we had at Westland.
Yeah.
Without the spacing, we can't bring in more people, but obviously we need more people and we need the spacing.
Right. Well, I certainly appreciate the discussion, right? This is not easy. Everybody is shorthanded, right? And I want to get to the actual nub of things, because what we can't do as government here is to say, this is so-and-so's fault, this is so-and-so's fault, this is so-and-so's fault. I'm trying to get to what the actual facts on the ground are, and then what do we need to do to fix that? That's what I'm trying to get to. So I appreciate it. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioner Clark Coleman, did you have
Well, Yes, I did. You know what? Let me just tone it down a bit. I guess the problem is in the past, we didn't have as large a demand for CPL permits. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
Yes, ma'am.
obviously the demand has gone up.
Yes.
So when you have a situation where the demand goes up, then you need more space and you need more employees. So I don't know why we are badgering back and forth on an issue that can be resolved by simply giving the clerk's office, since everybody's concerned about these CPL licenses, and I happen to think that there are a lot of other things that the clerk does that are just as important, if not as important, as CPL licenses. So I don't agree that you have to pull employees from issuing birth certificates and death certificates and all of these other things to satisfy the CPL holders. I'm just not there. So if we know a problem exists, and we know, we've heard that the number of folks who are applying for CPL permits has gone up dramatically, and I have to wonder why they are going up dramatically. You know, I think that we probably got enough guns on the street as it is. But anyhow, or in the homes, I should say, with children getting killed with guns in the homes. So I guess I'm really not just there in terms of pulling from other functions that the clerk does to beef up the CPL holders. That's where I am, you know. And if you know that a problem exists, then give them more space. If that's important to the commission, give them more space and give them more employees. It's very simple. I don't know why we're making a big deal out of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And yes, I would like to echo the sentiment that, you know, we're not here to badger the clerk's office. We're not here to bully the clerk's office. We're here to work together to resolve this issue so that the residents of Wayne County can get the services that they deserve in a timely manner. I see Commissioner Kinlock has his hand up. Do you have a quick question?
Absolutely. I have joined in on this meeting, and I'm absolutely of the mindset that we cannot transfer any positions or redirect any positions in the office of the county clerk in order to address any of the understaffed operations in this department. I can tell you this. There are other sections within the clerk's office, specifically elections, that I, as a member of the board of canvassers, used to hound the clerk as relates to why they're understaffed and why we cannot address many of the issues in the canvass. There's vital records and a host of other areas. And this is what I'm asking. I'm asking of the clerk's office, and I think I mentioned it yesterday in our meeting, is I'm requesting an overall report or some sort of letter okay, we're getting feedback. A report as it relates to the staffing levels and the needs to adequately address the shortage in elections, shortage in vital records, as well as the CPL. I know right now we're addressing the CPL issue because that's here. I know right now we're addressing the call center, but I'm saying that these problems, from what I understand, has persisted for quite some time. And I would like to see a previous report or something that would tell us exactly where the staffing level is, and the staffing levels need to become adequately, sufficiently filled in order to provide a functional office.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any other commissioners who want to ask a question or for discussion before we move on from this item? or commission staff? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, was that Pamela? Okay, so at this time, since I do believe we have several members of the public joining us who wish to comment on this topic, I am going to open it up for public comments just on this item. First of all, we're going to read any emails that came through on this item, and then we will unmute everyone's lines. So if you have a public comment, we limit you to two minutes, and there is no back and forth. So you will just say your comment, and that will be it. And is everything okay with that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we did receive an email comment from Chad King, but I spoke to him and he said that he would speak on it.
Okay. Mr. King, can you unmute yourself and go ahead with your comment?
I should be unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for bringing up this important issue in our county. Again, my name is Chad King. I'm the co-founder of the Black Bottom Gun Club, where I humbly serve as its president of this chapter of the National African American Gun Association, and I'm also the Midwestern Regional Director for the National African American Gun Association. I do want to apologize for any confusion that may have been had on my part as a result of typing in the chat and answering some of the questions that were being asked by Commissioner Killeen. I'm a firearms instructor also, and so I kind of knew some of those answers, and so I typed them in the chat room. But needless to say, the combination of the COVID-19 pandemic, extended police response time, social unrest, and economic uncertainty has propelled many who would never have thought about obtaining a firearm to purchase a firearm and take licensing classes to have firearms on their person in a legal way. Many Wayne County residents are attempting to exercise their legal right to carry a firearm by doing what's asked of them by the state to obtain that concealed pistol license in Michigan. And while I'm absolutely sensitive of the precautionary measures that need to be taken in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, what we're seeing in the Wayne County's clerk's office specific to concealed pistol license appointments is unsustainable. As I said before, I am an instructor, and several of my students and students of my colleagues have seen these exorbitant delays in just getting the concealed pistol license appointment. And that is before the 45-day clock starts from the time they get recorded fingerprints taken. And these delays are precluding them from being able to legally protect themselves and their family members. After following the law and fulfilling the requirements as per the state of Michigan relative to the Firearms Act and concealed pistol licensing requisites, Wayne County citizens' rights are being delayed and thus denied due to no fault of their own. This not only can be seen as an infringement on their rights, but also places some of these residents in harm's way without a means to legally defend their life if needed. So my question really is, what are the plans to address the CPL appointment delays in Wayne County? Some of these were answered during the conversation, such as the issue with Henry Ruff Road. And I understand that Wayne County may process more CPL applications than counties that neighbor us. So it would make sense to allot more resources to this function to the clerk's office. Additionally, it will be interesting to see the data between the demand or the amount of appointments that are being held up or that are being requested for concealed pistol licenses versus some of the other services. And that data can act as a guidepost for allocating the resources necessary. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments, Mr. King.
Thank you.
If there is anyone else who would like to speak, if you are able to unmute yourself, go ahead. Just on this, for this item only. We will have public comments again at the end of the meeting.
Yes, my name is Charles Blackwell. I wanted to state that in terms of the spacing issue, I believe one of the quickest ways for the county to address this issue is that maybe the county should contact Wayne County Community College right there on Fort Street and ask them, do you have any big conference halls that the clerk's office can set up a satellite office where we could establish a satellite office right here on the Wayne County Community College District campus? You have a lot of spacing and everything right there, and it's already not too far away from the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. In terms of the funding and back orders on the fingerprinting machines, there should be a way that the county can get the fingerprinting machines expedited. I mean, you can get everything else expedited these days. I'm not sure why, you know, there's some unseen shortage of fingerprinting machines. And the county needs to address staffing, because no matter how many fingerprinting machines you have, you need a body to operate that machine. So they need to get staffing somehow, some way. Human resources need to be either finding people within the county department right now they can switch over, or immediately posting job postings onto the county's website. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Blackwell. I see Melissa Lang, you have your hand up. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, hi there. Good afternoon. In regards to the staffing for the possible job openings, I'd like to understand where that's listed. Currently, I'm a person who is unemployed, and I have searched Wayne County, different areas of the state to look for a job, and I've still yet to see anything in regards to a clerk's office hiring for any of those positions for clerk's records. Are these jobs not located on the Wayne County employment website? Is it somewhere else? Is it Michigan State Police? Trying to understand that if you're hiring, where is that job posting?
Really?
Okay, thank you for your comment. Again, we don't go back and forth, but I will pass on your concern to our HR department. Is there anyone else? I'm just looking for hands, or if you just want to unmute yourself and speak up. Public comments on this item. All right, hearing none, we will end the discussion on this item. Thank you so much to the clerk's office for attending and answering all of our questions today. And thank you for the public for attending the meeting as well.
On behalf of the clerk, I want to thank all the commissioners here, as well as the CEO. And we look forward for your support as far as the resources that we need, that we can eliminate these back as well. So we thank you.
Thank you.
I echo his concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to the next item.
Item 2, communication from Cheryl Jordan, Deputy Corporation Counsel, forwarding the Department of Corporation Counsel's settlement report for October, November, and December 2020 and January 2021.
Okay, I know I saw Ms. Jordan on here earlier. I don't know if she was able to stay on for this long.
Yes, I'm here.
Did you just want to briefly talk about this item?
Yep, just we're Department of Corporation Counsel is required to submit monthly a settlement report that outlines each settlement. Unless the settlement is under $50,000, it was approved by the commission. I'm sorry, unless it was under $20,000, it was approved by the commission. And so shouldn't be too much issue. This is just a procedural filing.
Okay, great. And
move that we receive and file that.
Thank you. Can I get support?
Colleen.
Okay, we have a motion to receive and file and support. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Next item, please.
Item 3, communication from Chief Information Officer, Department of Information Technology, forwarding notification of an emergency procurement contract with the 1-year option to renew with SHI International Corporation.
All right, thank you. So I understand on this this item, there were some problems with the contract. Is there anyone from commission staff who can speak on these issues?
Sure, Commissioner Dobb. This is Chris Albrecht from Commission Policy Staff Policy Analyst. The department did respond to the preliminary concerns noted in the analysis. However, I did not manage to put the response in there. However, I can read it, or I could summarize. The concerns were basically regarding just some standard processes that are normally followed for contracts. For instance, normally subcontractor information is provided either via SciQuest, which is our contract management system, or some subcontractor designation forms that was not provided. Ethics and contracting vendor forms are usually completed and provided. That was not done. Usually some proof of insurance to show the vendor's ability to comply with the contract's insurance requirements is provided. That was not provided. And also based on the department's response, it appears that, to quote the department's response in regards to the concern about the invitation for bid information being incomplete and there being a term discrepancy in the contract between section 6.01 and appendix A, section 3.3, the department replied, this contract, and this will be in my full board analysis as well. Again, my apologies for not including it in this referral analysis. Quote, this contract was originally going to be procured via an IFB, invitation for bid, by the purchasing division, and then the IFB was canceled and reissued by purchasing unbeknownst to the department/contract manager until after the fact, which may be the reason for the discrepancy. Again, there's a discrepancy between the term in the contract in section 6.01 of the contract and appendix A, section 3.3. For example, the renewal term options are different. In section 6.01, the contract states that it may be extended by 1 additional year period. In appendix A, section 3.3 of the contract, it says the term of the resultant contract shall be for a period of 2 years from the date of the award. And then going back to section 6.01, the term does not appear to be for 2 years. The contract, it states that, quote, the contract is effective August 25th, 2020 to December 31st, 2020, unquote. So there's a discrepancy between the section 6.01 of the contract and appendix A. And then I have another response in regards to those documents like the subcontractor form, the ethics form, and the insurance that were not provided per usual per procurements that are usually non-emergency procurements that the commission would normally approve. Procurement provided a TCM required, this is quote the department's response, quote, procurement provided a TCM required procurement documents for emergency procurement requests, and none of those documents are listed, which is why I didn't include them. Also, in the training for contract managers, and one of the topics that were discussed were emergency procurement requests on January 7th, 2021, and those documents were not mentioned and or included as being needed, unquote. And then the last quote, and then I'll stop. I realize I've been talking for a minute here. Quote, I appreciate you mentioning this information, but procurement has disseminated the TCM required procurement documents revised 10/27/2020, which is what contract managers are following, unquote.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of information that's required that was not provided for this contract. Is our commission counsel, Felicia, are you still on?
I am. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Is there, will anything bad happen from this? I mean, I understand we have to receive and file this today, but any legal ramifications that could come from this contract not being completed? Or?
So through the chair, so just so everyone's clear, this was a contract that was issued by the administration under the emergency procurement. So it is something that has already occurred. Under normal circumstances, when commission staff receive such a contract, we actually do not process it through to committee until these type of items are addressed. In this instance, Commissioner, to your question directly, I can't answer whether or not something will happen. Obviously, if you have a contract and there's one portion of the contract that says the term of the contract is for a certain amount of days and another portion of a contract that says something different, that becomes concerning and problematic. Some of the forms may not be as problematic, I would say. Just not having some complete information in that instance shouldn't come back to harm necessarily, but it's just difficult to answer. Hopefully, the department has a good relationship with the vendor and there won't be any issues, but that's really not something I can say for certain. I will say to Chris's comment, based on what the department said, if indeed our purchasing division has issued some type of training informational to contract managers that does not include all of the required information, that's problematic. My first request would be that a copy of that information will be sent to myself so that we can review it. I am in constant contact with departments and procurement with regards to the requirements of the ordinance. There have been countless communications with various departments, and we always include procurement with regards to emergency procurements. It's not clear to me why such information would not be complete, but again, I haven't seen it, so I'm making an official request for that through this committee right now. And I think that perhaps there has to be more discussion with procurement with regards to this, if indeed they are not advising the departments appropriately. Now with the emergencies, it is understood that some of that happens on the back end versus in normal circumstances, everything is done up front. But if you have an emergency and it's health, safety, and welfare, you have to get the services started. But on the back end, they're still supposed to complete the contracts and the forms. So it's not quite clear to me what's happening, but there seems to be some type of miscommunication on the side of the executive. So I think that, more discussion, perhaps with yourself and others on the executive side, hopefully this can get cleared up.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Anderson, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I wanted to touch on, we made some changes in allowing the administration to take steps without commission approval. And I was concerned about it then, voted no on it. And this is one of the reasons why, that we find out after the fact. And I think it's something that we may want to, I hope everyone pays close attention to, that we may have to make an adjustment on that, because it's something that I think we have a great deal of responsibility, and as I think everyone else realizes we do. But anyway, that's it. I think Chris was saying that most of these things he did get an answer to, but of course, as I said, once again, it's after the fact. The money's gone. It's been, the authority was ceded to the administration to be able to do this. And I think it takes our approval process out of the picture, and our staff, as well as our legal staff. So I think that's something we have to really look at very close, whether or not we want to continue that. But anyway, that's all. And I would just ask Chris, if through you, the chair, if he could address, it sounds like, and I may be wrong if I'm misunderstanding, I just wanted him to clear it up. I think he did get the answers when he pushed a little harder, he got the answers and got a response. But again, it's after the fact. But thank you. That's all. If Chris could respond.
Sure. Yes, Commissioner Anderson, you are correct. I did get a response from the department, and they did basically state that they're being advised by procurement that for some reason in this emergency procurement process, that some of these normal steps like the subcontractor forms, ethics in contracting forms, which includes questions about, conflicts of interest, standard stuff, but still stuff that we're used to seeing, used to verifying that everything is in order with. The department acknowledged that those documents were not present, and they were advised by procurement that not all those documents were necessary for some reason.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on this item? Can I get a motion to receive and file?
Move to receive and file.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Next item, please.
Item 4, requesting commission approval of retroactive modification 3 to a contract with a 1-year option to renew with Amwins Group Benefits.
All right, any questions or discussion on this item? Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Anderson, do you still have your hand up or, oh, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to touch on the fact, and I don't know if any other commissioners have had the same issues. I've got a number of retirees that I've heard from that are not getting their checks, their stipend checks on time, and it's been very difficult to get them resolved. And I think it's the processing by Task, I think is the company, TASC of Madison, Wisconsin, that is responsible for mailing those checks out. Just wondered if someone, I don't know if Claire Mason is online, if she's the one to speak to this, but I have been unable to get a return call from someone in the department, I think in our department, that handles this or oversees this. And that's someone by the name of Precious Walton. And I can't seem to get a call back to try to assist my constituents that are retirees.
Is there anyone from the administration here for this item?
Yes, good afternoon. This is Claire Mason Lee. I am Director of Benefits and Disability Administration for Wayne County. And also I have a few people that were invited to join the call today, including our representative from Amwins, who is our actual contractor. His name is Don Sheehan. He is also on the call. But I don't believe there was a question per se that was coming from Commissioner Anderson, but I can speak to the concerns with the third-party vendor, and also Mr. Sheehan can speak to them as well, which is Task, and they are the entity that is charged with the administration of the Medicare stipends through the HRA program. And Mr. Anderson, if there is or Commissioner Anderson, if there is a pending call to the benefits office, I know that Mr. Johnson, Tim Johnson in your office has contacted me, and I've shared information with him for the retirees if they're running into concerns. But Ms. Walton in my office, along with the representatives of Amwins, have been handling each individual retiree call as we receive them, because the matter does not fall with the county, except that we are in contract with Amwins. The issue does fall with the subcontractor Task. And so I do have Mr. Sheehan on the phone if he'd like to address any further comments, but if there's a specific question that I can answer for you, I will be happy to do so, and then also have him answer if there's a specific question for the subcontractor.
Madam Chair, if I could just address it. I'm sorry it didn't sound like a question, but I guess my concern is why we would approve a subcontractor when we're continuing to have problems with our retirees getting their checks. Why would we be recommending to extend that contract with that includes the subcontractor?
Okay, so thank you for the clarification on the question. So the HRA administration, which I'm sure most of you are already familiar with, is something that we are obligated to do under the McDonald Settlement Agreement. And we have to continue with this process. And in the end of 2019, we did do an RFP for a possible new third-party vendor and possible new subcontractors to handle this process. We were in the process of completing that RFP vetting in early March of 2020, when we also received the results from an arbitration in relations to the Hra administration. And at that time, all of our processes stalled, along with the fact that we then, the day that we were going to vote on the new vendor for the Hra administration, was also the same day we were notified that we were to end in-office operations and go home for because of the pandemic. So because the arbitration process is still ongoing and has not yet concluded, and because we are not able to do an award at this time while that arbitration process is still pending, the easiest and simplest way to continue the administration was to extend the contract with Amwins for another year until that process is completed. We also have had conversations with them about the change or the need of change for their subcontractor. In the period of time that I've been working with the Benefits Division, which has been a little over 3 years, I can recall on 2 occasions, including December of 2020, unfortunately, that there has been an issue with the retirees receiving their stipend payments. Now, I can only recall 2 occasions of the issue happening, but I can't speak to timing before I became the benefits director. So the issue that happened in December of 2020 was due to a system upgrade and system change that Task made. And unfortunately, there was a lot of miscommunication with the retirees about how that process was supposed to work. We do have a performance guarantee that the stipends are supposed to be paid to retirees within a time frame, or there will be a fee charged to our contractor and subcontractor, and I have initiated and taken the advantage of that particular performance guarantee. That was unacceptable, what happened in December, and they are working to resolve it. But to summarize the answer, the reason that we have to continue is because we must continue this administration of these Hra stipends, and it is easier to do with the current vendor until we are able to make an award of the new vendor or what's going to result with the arbitration.
Just one follow-up question, if I could, Madam Chair.
Sure, Commissioner Anderson.
Mrs. Lee, what happens to that penalty? Does any portion of that go back to those that were inconvenienced and lost their or did not get their stipend, or what happens to it?
Well, let me answer the question in reverse. So first of all, everyone who was owed a stipend in December has received it. That has been confirmed. Some of them were received late, but everyone received their stipend. In regards to the penalty, that offsets the administrative cost of the administration of the Hra.
Okay, all right. All right, and last question is the failure to receive a return call when we're trying to, if a commissioner has a constituent that has an issue that they've not received it. I guess it was just surprising to not receive a response.
If you have a problem, Commissioner Anderson, if you're not getting a response from one of my staff, please contact me. You have sent me emails as well, and I do respond. So if you're having a problem getting a response from one of my staff members, please send that to me.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clerk Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too did receive quite a few complaints from retirees regarding the confusion that happened when they changed to the universal benefit account. you know, many of our retirees aren't that computer literate, and they have made it so complicated until the seniors are getting frustrated trying to understand how this whole thing works. And when they get frustrated, then they call their commissioners. So whoever you award it to, and I'm not sure that task is the right one, but they certainly have made it very, very complicated. And for these seniors to have to navigate through this whole complex technology is very, very confusing. And for them, it's frustrating. So you need to make it, it needs to be more simplistic and consumer friendly, because it is not now. I can guarantee you, it is not. It is very difficult now. And to try to call them, you wait forever on the line to try to talk to a real person. So that's my input into this issue, because I too did receive a number of calls from retirees.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark-Coleman. I do understand we were inundated with calls too throughout the holidays, prior to the holidays, and I'd like Mr. Sheehan, if he has any additional comments, to either echo what I've already shared, or he will probably tell you how displeased I was and how many calls we had, because that, I agree with you, was not acceptable what happened in December.
Yes, thank you, Claire. This is Don Sheehan with Amwins. First of all, we apologize to the commissioners and to Claire and her team for the failure of our subcontractor to meet the requirements to get the funding done. It has run well. To Claire's point earlier, this was the second instance and the only instance in the 5+ years that they've been performing these services for us. As she mentioned, with their permission, we are currently in the process of vetting and evaluating new subcontractors. That is a process that would take the vetting process, but the actual switch over to a different subcontractor is something that needs to be communicated and handled very carefully, because we don't want to exacerbate the problem that exists. Additionally, as with Claire's team's knowledge and approval, we have added additional checks and balances to make sure that the problem that happened in December that doesn't, which what we've learned through that process is that once the file is received and the funds are received from the county, there are several manual processes that task has to do in order to manipulate the data to get it into their system and to make it flow. And then there are additional things, manual interventions that they have to make in order to make sure that the funds get distributed properly. And so we have a system now where they notify us as each of these steps are made so that we can triage any issue that comes up at that time. Again, we appreciate serving the retirees, and we do really regret that at this, especially the time of year that it happened, but any time that commissioners would be receiving the phone calls from disgruntled members. So we strive not to have that happen again.
Okay, follow up, Madam Chair, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Also, the benefits that you accrued in 2020, and I guess they expire at the end of the year, but they're supposed to carry on to the next year. So people are having their funds held up for the 2020 year, and they're running out of funds for the 2020 year because the 2020 year, they've not released those funds or carried those over for them to use in 2021.
Commissioner Clark-Coleman, I think what you may be referring to is that there are a certain number of retirees that have a reoccurring claim on file with TASC, which means by federal law, in order to receive the funds that are in the account, it has to be a approved service, medical service. It can't be just for chewing gum, for instance. It has to be for some sort of copay, and that requires that documentation be given in order to be able to draw the money out of those funds. There is a reoccurring claim. So if you're paying an insurance premium per se, and you want to be reimbursed on that on a monthly basis, you have to do it. And unfortunately, that has to be reestablished each year. And that's typically at the end of the calendar year. That's not the question? I'm sorry then.
No, that's not the question. There certain funds that you accrued in the previous year. What is the cutoff date? Is it January 1st? For using funds from a year. There's been a case, because I looked into it, where people had money left over for 2020, the year 2020. And then when the 2021 came along, and then they started the new funds for 2021, whereas the ones that they had left from 2020 were not transferred to be used. That's my point.
I would, the funds typically roll over. So I'm confused as to why. I'm not aware of that having to be a challenge. And if you would like to reach out to me with the individuals who were affected, we could look into getting those corrected, because any unused funds.
They did not roll over.
Yeah, it might have been a timing issue, only because as Claire had mentioned, they had, or you had mentioned, they changed administrative systems. And I know they had to move the funds from system A to the new system. So that could have just been a timing thing, but it also could have been something that fell through the cracks. So if you could either email me or let me know of the constituents that have raised this issue, we could look into more detail as to what that problem would be, and to make sure that gets resolved.
Very good.
Thank you.
Commissioner Coleman, you can send that information directly to me or have Mr. Johnson send it to me. That's fine. Either way.
Very good.
Is that acceptable, Commissioner? You're all set?
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I think we need a motion for approval on this item.
Move approval, Madam Chair. Colleen.
Thank you. Any support?
Reluctantly supported, even though it's retroactive.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Basham. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next item.
Item 5, requesting commission approval of retroactive modification 1 to a 2-year contract with Lewis and Monday.
Okay, do you have any questions, discussion on this item?
Move approval.
Okay. I have a motion for approval. Do I have any support?
Colleen.
Okay, any commissioner questions, comments? Yes, Commissioner Basham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to continue to send my message, it's retroactive, and I'll be voting no.
Okay. Is there anyone from
That's all.
Corp Council? Do you want to explain why this is retroactive?
Yes, this is Tracy McAllister, Chief of the Chief Assistant Corp Counsel of the Labor and Employment Team. We retained Lewis and Monday to represent us on a case that we had. It was on McDonald versus Wayne County. At the time, we requested a modification or to the contract from the initial $35,000. There were some settlement discussions going on, but we did start the process back in July. The problem is we have to get the numbers and the authority from the department. And it wasn't until late fall that we got that clearance from the department. By the time it went through the TCM process, it came back to Corp Counsel and it went through the law firm as well, Lewis and Monday. we're talking like the end of December, January before it was submitted to the commission. So we do apologize for this. We really did think we had an opportunity to settle this case. Unfortunately, it went longer than we thought, and so the firm had to do some extra work. So again, I do apologize, but this contract is concluded and all the work is finalized, and we do have a settlement agreement and a stipend order to dismiss the case. So there should be no other additional charges on this particular item.
Okay. All right.
I may, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
But even way back when you know it's to have a retroactive contract 7 months, there should be some indicators coming up that, you know, this is we're not quite there, or we need to get there. Why does it have to be 7 months retroactive? So I know it'll pass, but I'm just sending my message that I'll vote no on retroactive contracts. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it.
Madam Clerk, did we have a motion?
Yes,
yes.
So it's been moved and supported. I'm sorry, we should have been doing roll call votes on these, shouldn't we?
Well,
for approval items.
Action items.
On action items. So do we need to do a roll call on this one?
Yes, we can do a roll call vote.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on this one.
Commissioner Kniezek,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Basham,
No.
Commissioner Killeen. Commissioner Killeen, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Aye. Did you not get that?
You say yes?
Yeah, I do. I'm unmuted here. You can't hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. Thank you. Commissioner Dobb.
Yes.
County website, whatever.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you.
Next item.
Item 6, requesting commission approval of Amendment 6 to a professional services contract with Cochlear Point Communications.
Okay.
I move approval on this one.
Support.
Okay, any questions or discussion? This is for the continuation of our Director of Administration, Tim Johnson. So we have a motion for approval and support. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Kniezek,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Basham,
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen,
Aye.
Commissioner Dobb.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item.
E, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
Okay, I don't have any. Next item.
Public comments.
Okay, so I'm gonna open it back up for public comments that do not have anything to do with the first item. If anyone has a comment, please unmute yourself, or actually, can the clerk unmute everyone? We're gonna unmute all lines, so if you've got some background noise going on, just keep yourself muted.
I've unmuted the lines.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments for the Committee on Government Operations? Any public comments? One last time, any public comments? All right, hearing none. Next item.
Adjournment.
I so move.
Support?
Support.
All right, all those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for everyone for sticking